Hello and welcome back to another episode of Quintessence. My goal for this video is to add a health system structures and a knowledge system. What I mean by that is every world works a little different, and as you play you figure out what certain things do. For example, I want there to be 3 different types of mushrooms. One type that heals you, one type that kills you, and one type that has no effect. But before we work on that, there needs to be a way to see your health. After getting the shape, I started adding lines to make it look more like a rock. So the way health is going to work is there's going to be a heart split into 20 different sections, each section representing 1 hit point. And after scaling it down, because I didn't like how high the resolution was, I added it to the game and added functions to give and take health. And to finish it off, I added a death transition. So now when you die, the screen fades to black and you respawn. Now that the health system is done, I want to add effects, so that when you eat a mushroom, you don't just heal a bunch or take a bunch of damage all at once, but rather it's spread out over time. To start out with, I started making a regeneration icon. My idea for it was that in the middle there'd be some kind of orb expanding outwards, surrounded by a lot of red and pinkish colors. And in the end, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But not only do I want there to be regeneration, but also poison. My idea was for there to be a skull surrounded in green poison clouds, so I started making a few green clouds, made a bordered background, and then I blurred some of the clouds to make them look more cloud-like. And then after many attempts of trying to make a skeleton skull, I drew one that I was happy enough with to move on. And the final touch was adding a layer of green clouds on top of the skull, and it's done. I don't think it looks perfect, but it looks good enough. So to actually code the effects in the game, I made a effect dictionary linking the effect name and its icon. And then I added a list to the player tracking what effects they have, drawing each effect icon on the screen, and adding a gray background to it, and I think it turned out pretty well. And after repeating the process to add poison, the visual side of effects are done. Now it's time to make the effects function. And how that works is every tick of the world, it checks the interval, and if the interval is greater than the current time, then it runs the effects function. And now regeneration slowly heals you, and poison slowly kills you. With the effects completely done, it's time to move on to working on mushrooms. I started by drawing a red mushroom, then a green mushroom, and finally the blue mushroom. And now that the 3 mushroom textures are done, it's time to make them generate in the world. So the first step in generating mushrooms is testing if the elevation is equal to 1 block above grass level. And now I need to test if a 1D noise map is greater than a certain value. So for now we can just do greater than 0.5. And if we test it, now red mushrooms spawn in the world, but they spawn in way too big of patches. If we only allow mushrooms to spawn, if the noise value is greater than 0.7, mushroom patches should be smaller. And if we also move through the noise faster, then there should be more patches spread out through the world. Now mushroom patches are a better size, and there are more spread out through the world. Now all we need to do is copy and paste this for the red and green mushroom. The only thing we need to do is change the seed values, so then these mushrooms will spawn in different places. And now there are green, blue, and red mushrooms. And there's one more change I want to make. Do you see how all these mushrooms are in a line? I want to randomize it a bit to make them look more natural. And the way I'm going to randomize the mushrooms is if a random seeded number is greater than 0.5, then the mushroom will spawn. Now when patches of mushrooms spawn, they're a little bit more random. And now that mushrooms are done, I want to start implementing the knowledge mechanic. The first thing I'm going to add is a stone tablet that shows the effect of each mushroom. I started with the base shape of the stone tablet, and then I added some texture, but I wasn't happy about how it looked, so I restarted, and this time I went for a much simpler design. I think this one turned out a lot better than the last one. And using this knowledge tablet, there are 2 different ways you can know what each type of mushroom does. The first way I want you to know what each type of mushroom does is just by looking at the stone tablet. And how it's going to work is that each mushroom will have an indicator next to it representing what effect it'll give you. For example, next to the mushroom that gives you regeneration, there will be a heart. And there's going to be an apple next to the mushroom that gives no effect, because in the future when I add hunger, I want this to be a food source. And a skull next to the mushroom that gives you poison. Now the next step for adding knowledge is to add a small description under items telling you all of the information you have about that item, so that when you eat a mushroom you will always know what effect it'll give you. And after implementing the knowledge tablet into the game, this is how it works. If you hold down the knowledge tablet for more than 2 seconds, it'll give you all of the knowledge about the 3 types of mushrooms, and if you click with the knowledge tablet it'll place the block. And now before adding the structure the knowledge tablet will generate in, I want to add a pedestal block because I think it looks weird just sitting on the ground. And to fit the size of the tablet it's going to be a 2x1 block. And now that we have all the blocks in place, it's time to start building the actual structure. It's going to be a pretty small and simple structure, with doors on either side and the knowledge tablet in the middle. And with the structure done, it's time to save it and put it into the world's generation. The way I'm going to add structures to the world is by making a 2D noise map, only spawning a structure at the highest point in a area of high values. So to demonstrate, all of these stone bricks are high values, and the black and pink block is the highest point, and that's where the structure is going to spawn. So now throughout the world, this structure will spawn, and structures were the final thing I wanted to do in this video, so hopefully see you next week. Goodbye.